Do you know what International Women's Day is?
I've heard of it. I don't actually know an awful lot about it, if I'm honest.
I think it's important to celebrate women's achievements and look up to women and look up their biographies and just celebrate women as a whole.
It's got to be all about the struggles over the many years of women's fight against women's oppression, and it's not just a British thing, it's an international thing where, you know, women have fought hard and long for just the most basic rights, you know, over time, particularly in the workplaces and obviously voting and stuff like that.
Well, it's celebrating the achievements that women have made so far, and also pointing out that we have still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's it, a celebration of all that we're good at.
I demonstrated in the 70s, got arrested, storming the Houses of Parliament for a woman's right to choose. And we thought we'd really changed things then for women. We really did.
I remember when I was younger, I never thought of myself as not as good as a man, ever. And then I started working, and then that changed. And then I had kids, and that changed even more.
What do you think about men and women? Do you think men and women are equal?
I have to say, I was very bolshy and ran away from home when I was a teenager to do what I wanted to do, but I never understood that that I wasn't allowed to do things or not have a voice because I was a woman.
Is sexual harassment, would you say, as big a problem as it was in the past?
I'd say it's worse. I'd say it's more widespread.
I've had a bit of harassment in the workplace when I was working part-time, but it wasn't too serious, and I ended up leaving the job anyway, so.
When I was a young woman, of course I was sexually harassed. All young women were. You couldn't work in an office without being sexually harassed, and you were meant to take it.
Back in the 90s, I had a boss who used to just pull up a chair and watch me when I did the filing. He wanted to watch me bending over.
Well, he was very subtle. He used to come into the office where we were doing bits of paperwork and filing things and get up really close and kind of just have to squeeze past you all the time, that kind of thing.
But it took, I think, the Me Too movement to make a lot of women in this era aware of just how much, you know, we are treated, you know, as objects, sexual objects.
And I took somebody to court for sexual harassment when I was in the 20s. I was working for a major stockbroker in the city, and his advances stopped, he stopped me getting promotion, basically. I took him to court, I took the company to court, and I won. Yeah, it was fantastic to go against a really big stockbroker in the 1980s. It felt great. But what's wrong is wrong, and what's right is right.
Yes, I am a feminist. I'm a feminist, yes.
And I remember back in the 70s thinking it was because men were supporting women at that time that we seemed to be able to progress so much more then.
And sometimes things need, you know, like the Sarah Everard murder, you need to have horrific things like that to make people actually think and ask their female friends, do you feel safe out? You know, have you ever walked with your keys between your fingers? Because we all have, you know, at my age maybe not so much, but when I was younger I was terrified. Now I don't really go out when it's dark unless I'm in my car. A man wouldn't ever have had to think about that.
I just wish more men would support us, I really do. I just wish more men would listen to what we have to say. It's tough being a woman.
How well do you think women are doing today when it comes to equality with men?
I don't think we're doing particularly well.
I think we're going backwards a bit.
I don't think it's as good as people feel it is. I think there's a great deal said about women's equality, and the reality doesn't match the story, really, the story told.
I think there are definitely more visible women, like figures in higher roles.
Lots of my leaders are women nowadays, but in the past they are most of them are men. So I think it's an important thing.
Just because there are a lot of women who are at the head of companies or Booker Prize winners or whatever, it does not mean to say that en masse there's been as much progress as we feel, or as much progress as there certainly should be.
During the 60s and 70s, there was a blip where everything seemed to be doing well and we were fighting for women. And when I was in Africa, I kind of thought it was continuing on in England and came back to discover nothing much had changed. It was really disappointing.
When we were growing up, we were told we could do anything, we could do any job we set our minds to. We were encouraged to do science subjects, but we still don't get paid the same as the men that we work with.
I think disabled women get a worse deal than disabled men, actually. Women are coming the worst out of it because their incomes are very often lower and disabled people are poor.
Honestly, I am lost for words at how backwards we've gone. I used to think we used to spiral forwards in time, and now I think we just go on in a big circle.
If my daughter can't walk into Sainsbury's without a man commenting about her chest, then things haven't really progressed that much.
Why are things not progressing?
Because men are mainly still in charge. So we're talking to a male interviewer and a male camera and boom operator.
You're also always, well, certainly for working class women, you're stuck with the whole thing of the 24-hour girdle. You know, they used to advertise it on telly, and that's literally the sort of hours we're talking about, because you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a single parent sometimes, and then you're a nurse, you're a carer, you're a cook, you're a cleaner, and all that stuff.
And you look at men around the world, and many women are still abused in this country and all around the world, and the women's voice has not been heard. I think it's frightening.
I've always sort of gone my own, I'm always carved my own way, so I've never let anything stop me really. So I'm just hoping they'll take that lead from me and not take no for an answer.